بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق سيدنا سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا فتحا مبينا وارزقنا رزقا مباركا كريما. رب اشرح لنا صدورنا ويسر لنا أمورنا واحلل لنا عقدا من ألسنتنا يفقهوا قولنا. ربنا أدخلنا مدخل صدق وأخرجنا مخرج صدق واجعل لنا من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Today we'll discuss Surah as-SAJDA, Surah entitled The Prostration, coming on the heels of Surah Luqman. And just very quick, inshallah, a couple of things, couple of thoughts about it before we delve deeper. It's a very short surah. Again, we're coming to that part of the Quran, the last third of the Quran. Surahs get smaller and smaller, yet not necessarily meaning less in meaning and profoundness. This surah is very dense with richness and mysteries. Couple of thoughts on, inshallah, first the special place of this surah in the heart of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if nothing else is going to draw our attention to this, enough for us to know that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has understood that this surah is so significant in its meanings, in drawing him closer and closer to Allah, that he used to recite it as reported every Friday morning, Salat al-Fajr. Every Friday morning, Salat al-Fajr, the Prophet ﷺ would read Surah as-SAJDA in the first rak'ah, every Friday. And in the second rak'ah, Surah al-Insan. First rak'ah, Surah as-SAJDA, and second rak'ah, Surah al-Insan. That in itself should compel us to ask, why is the Prophet ﷺ reciting this surah? It must contain something very meaningful to him. It must contain some meanings that are very essential for him to continue to reflect on and remember. That's the honor of this very special surah. Comes right after Surah Luqman, whose essence was about wisdom and attaining wisdom in life. Attaining that juice of comprehension, of understanding, and then putting that into practice. And we've seen that embodied in the example of that figure, that Sayyid Luqman, and how he transmitted this understanding that Allah has given him to his own child. Indeed, demonstrating that wisdom even in the act of teaching his child. Demonstrating wisdom even in the act and the how, right, of teaching his own child, right? But the essence of that wisdom was what? Was encapsulated in the first instruction, reminder of Luqman to his child, which was what? وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا لُقْمَانَ الْحِكْمَةَ أَنْ يَشْكُرَ لِلَّهِ. The essence of everything is gratitude. This is the most difficult thing to attain in life. It really is. It's not easy, right? And instructing people to be thankful is not going to make them thankful. It is really a mindset of understanding that I'm indeed in a blessing, and it all originates from Allah. Very easy to shift our focus onto what we don't have. Very easy. That's the tendency of the mind. The tendency of the mind is to see the cup half empty and not half full. SubhanAllah. That's the challenge, the test. It's a very difficult test, and thoughts are uncontrollable in our minds, right? So when there is a space in our minds, emptiness, thoughts would come to fill it, but essentially with, being colored by this sense of not having enough, right? And what happens when we have that? We're afraid, we're sad, etc., etc., etc. The ultimate thought is thankfulness. Allah says if you're able to shift your attention and focus onto the gifts that you already have, but it's not enough to say this. It is to understand that they come from Allah. Every single time we think that thought, you automatically feel better. Isn't it true? You feel better. You start to smile. Isn't it amazing that a thought can shift our emotions? That's what Allah says in the beginning of this Quran, this blessed Quran. Alhamdulillah. Learn this and not free. Walk this walk of gratitude. Now this surah is amazing. comes, first of all, it's entitled, last surah was entitled by a figure, name of a figure, Luqman. And this surah comes to be entitled by an act. This act, the prostration. Allah says this prostration, ultimately, if you were to just summarize it quickly, as far as what the theme of this surah is about, is that this sajda, this act, that this surah will elaborate on, is ultimately a substantiation, a demonstration, a translation of what? Gratitude. SubhanAllah. If you're truly, truly wise, you will be truly thankful to Allah. And if you're truly thankful to Allah, because ultimately wisdom has to be what? Shown. You'll be what? Your body will be compelled to fall on the ground and you put your head down and say, Subhana Rabbi. So the act itself that this surah is entitled with is in itself a translation of this gratitude. It's not enough to say, I am thankful, I'm grateful, but I'm not going to give you anything. I'm not going to say I'm thanking you. I'm not going to go out of my way to show you kindness. How good of a gratitude is that? The ultimate gratitude to Allah is shown not in coerced acts. No. In the body itself coming to perform that prostration. Feeling that I have to, I should be, I want to put my head down for Allah. This is in a very short, brief terms. But this surah is about much more than this. The surah in its short 30 verses comes to encapsulate many themes of the Quran. A lot of the themes of the Quran, from faith to the end of times and the return to Allah, to talking about the sons of Allah Himself and contemplating the sons of Allah are all encapsulated in the surah. To speaking about judgment and sorting out truth from falsehood, to the fate of nations, all summed up in this beautiful surah. Hard to imagine how it flows. What is it really more essentially about? The surah is going to get into the worlds of Allah, the mysteries of the worlds of Allah. If you were to just kind of define them in simple terms, there are two worlds that Allah has created. Two worlds that belong to Allah. And Allah is going to get into them. In simple terms, they're the spiritual world of Allah, or even we say in Arabic, the world of Amr, the world where Allah issues His commands. This is a mysterious world to us, unknown to us. We can't really physically access it. It's veiled from us, right? And Allah Azza wa Jalla has created this world that emanates and issues from what world? From the spiritual world. It's not the other way around. That is the more encompassing world. That is the transcendent world. We're in the world of form and matter, right? The problem is that our vision is limited to this world. And the question is how to access the other world. This surah is about this. How do you access the greater world? The world that contains the essential meanings, the reality, truth. That world, if you're in it right now, if I'm in it, you will not be confused. You will perceive and see reality as reality is. No two people will differ. Imagine all the differences here. The differences of opinion, the conjecture, the guessing as to what truth is, all the theories that we've come up with to explain the world and explain reality. Why is that happening? Because our eyes, as this surah tells us, fool us. We think we can attain the full truth on our own. Through our vision, our minds, we think we can. Allah says it's not possible. To attain that true perception of reality and haqq, you cannot on your own. Now Allah has given us the faculty, as He tells us in the surah, to attain it. But it's not enough by itself. How do I unveil that? How do I arrive at really gaining that perception of reality? Allah says it's going to demand of you something. It's going to demand for you to slip into a subtle state of your being. See, people think I can look at 1 + 1 = 2. I can read something and on my own I'm going to arrive at the truth. No, it's not possible. How else would the eyes then fool us? They fool us all the time. Isn't it true? How often do we misinterpret words we hear? How often do we look at things, enough to look at light? Allah gives us this example in front of our eyes. You heard of the refraction of light? Right? You look in water, right? And what happens to the rays of light? They're bent. So if you place an object on top of the water and you look in the water, does it really show it in the location where it should appear? No, it's bent. So, you're placing the object here, water is here, the object should appear, the reflection here. Isn't it true? But where does it appear? Right here. You're like, what? Why is it there? Why? Studying refraction. The light ray hits the water and is bent. And the light carries an image. So wait a minute, is it here or is it here? Where should the reflection be? Why is it here? Because Allah bent the light. Just to show us very simply, your eyes are thinking it should be here, but it's not. But it's in neither. It's only a reflection, but it's refracted. How often have we spoken about the stars? Again, light carries an image, right? That's how we see things. If you turn off the light, you cannot see anything. The stars that we're looking at, how are we seeing them? Through light that is reflected on them or that emanates from them. That's it. By the time that the light arrives at your eyes is when you really see. But how long has it taken for that light to arrive? The closest star to us, the closest, other than the sun, right? Sun is a star. It's, some 93 million miles away. 93 million miles away. It takes the light 8 minutes to arrive. So when you look at the sun, when it rises in short moments, you're not really looking at the sun right now. By the time the image comes to you, light capturing that image for you, it's already 8 minutes. So you saw the sun 8 minutes ago. Your eyes think it's now, it's not. What about the star that is close, the next closest star? It's 4 light years away. 4 light years away. How far is that? Some 46 million kilometers away. You're like, what? No, billion, sorry. What am I saying? I forgot the distance. Don't quote me on this. 93 million is the sun. The distance is so massive that I can tell you that it takes the light 4 years to arrive here. 4 years. So you're looking at that star. It's called Proxima Centauri. Proxima Centauri. So you're looking at that star and you think it's there. It's not. That's the image 4 years ago. What about the farther stars? The scientists say that you might be looking at stars that died already, but you think they're there. What am I saying? Eyes fool you. So how do I see them? How do I make sense of all of this and see the reality behind the images that I see? Allah says it's not possible for you. You have to slip into a different state of being in you, the state of the soul. Only the soul can see it. Only the soul can see that through that veil of the symbols that we live in. But how do I slip into that state? Because if you slip into that state, you're able to see. Not through your brain, but through your heart and through your soul. Allah gives us in this surah 2 keys. One of them is the light of what? It's the light, because this Quran didn't come from this world of creation. It didn't come from the world of matter and form. Where did it come from? The spiritual, the world of the command of Allah. So it came to us as a gift from there into this world to allow us to gain access to that world. The light of it, when it shines upon your heart, you're able to see. And you now can slip into that state of consciousness, where it's not about your eyes anymore. It's like you're closing your eyes, but you can see. Because you see with a different faculty. And the faculty itself, where did it come from? The faculty of soul. Where did it come from? World of form? You're going to see it in the surah. Allah breathed into him, her, you, us, from his spirit. It's from that world. So the soul itself already has what it takes to see because it came from that world. But it's not enough. It cannot see in its own still. It demands a lot of the Quran. It demands a lot of the Quran. So Allah will elaborate in the surah on how those souls that are able to see, and they see through the light of the Quran, they see that true perception of reality. And you're able to also slip into that state. through powerful, sacred acts that Allah has given us from that world. He says, you want to connect with that world? Put your head where? Put your head on the ground. SubhanAllah. So let your body, which came from this world, connect with this ground, but start to glorify Allah. Glorify Him over and over and over, and recite His verses. And use the faculty of your brain to contemplate the mysteries around you, and you're going to find yourself what? On your own, feeling the presence of Allah. You'll find yourself closest to Allah. You'll find yourself in that state where you're able to see and perceive reality as reality is, not as you think it is. This is what the surah is about. It's ultimately a surah about contemplating the mysteries of the sons of Allah in this world, so that we can gain access to what? The next world. And you're going to see it in your own life by you falling without even control to prostrate to Allah when you really grasp and understand that world. You're going to fall on your own. You're going to say it doesn't make sense any other way. My heart is compelling me to fall on the ground right now and pray to Allah. It will no longer be a ritual. It will no longer be just an act that I have to do. No. You feel compelled to fall in prostration to Allah. Let us, inshallah, now go over some of the verses at least and see how that plays out. How these meanings that I just shared with you manifest in the surah. Allah begins the surah by أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم تنزيل الكتاب لا ريب فيه من رب العالمين. So Allah begins the surah by the letters Alif Lam Mim, reminding us that this Quran is ultimately composed from letters. Letters that came from Allah Azza wa Jalla that allow us to articulate and understand concepts, right? And He's challenging the Arabs at the time, come up with something like it. Here are letters for you. Here are letters. Compose something. But also these letters are themselves a mystery. This is what we think they mean. What we think they mean. But they contain oceans. Remember in the last surah? What did Allah say? If you brought 7 oceans, meaning what? Many oceans, and turned them into ink, all of them, and you brought all the trees, many earths that contain trees, and you turned all the wood of all the trees into pens, and used the ink of these many oceans to write out the commands of Allah and the acts of Him creating. Will they end? Will Allah's acts and commands ever perish or be exhaustible? Absolutely not. Infinite. That's the world of Allah. SubhanAllah. Right? So Allah is reminding all of us, SubhanAllah, you think that's what you think it means? That's a superficial meaning. Mysteries behind these letters that we don't know. Then Allah reminds us about that gift that He gave us from the heavens and allow the eyes to see and understand. This is it. He says, تَنْزِيلُ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ مِنْ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. He says the revelation, the descent of this special book of Allah Azza, this kitab, no doubt about it. Who's telling us this? We're creatures of doubt and skepticism. This is what's troubling us and confusion over, what truth is. What's the right thing, right? What's false? We're constantly debating these things. Allah literally, clarify this, set the record straight. Fine. A grand finale. He says there is no doubt about it. What else do you need? I'm telling you, from that world, there is no doubt about it. Where did it come to you, Rabbil Alamin? Because this word came to you from the nurturer, the master, all the worlds. Your world, the world of one. His world, the spiritual world. All the worlds contained within this world and the whole universe. Right? And there's a reference to that. Alimul ghaybi was shahada. The witnessed world was shahada. Shahada means to witness. He calls it alamul shahada. We see the symbols here. There's symbols. My body is a symbol. That's it. Your body is a symbol. It contains secrets behind it. And something else within you, embedded in you, called soul, that comes from where? Alamul ghayb. Ghayb is that which you cannot perceive, not even just see. It's unknown to you. Ghaib is absent. We translate it as unseen. It's much more than unseen. Seen means eyes. but it's unknown completely to you. It's veiled from you. Allah is the Lord of both, and He's telling you, this book is from me, and it is the truth, no doubt about it. Then He says, how dare they? The people in the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they didn't want to believe. Because they're what? Remember Surah Al-Ankabut? See how the surahs are interrelated? What happened to them? They got entrapped in what? In the web. The web of this world. Because it's attractive and it's alluring, we fall so in love with it. And Allah says what gets us in trouble is not really anything but being attracted to this world. Falling in love to the point where you worship it. You start to worshiping so much with your body, with my body, that the faculty of seeing, which is heart and soul, is completely neglected. And rust develops over it, so it cannot see anymore. Because we're busy indulging. Being busy indulging in this world. So these people were busy indulging in this world. They didn't want to leave it. That's their God, this world. So when they were presented with this beautiful reminder, the light of Allah that allows their hearts to see, they didn't want that. Because they're engrossed in indulgence. So what did they do? They themselves didn't want to believe it. Or they thought there is truth in it, but they didn't want to follow it. But also they didn't want others to follow it. That's the degree to which that human being can corrupt himself. We corrupt ourselves, but it's not enough. I want others to be corrupt. Right? Because it doesn't please me if others are not following my way, right? And then they have this truth. No, I ain't gonna get you to my side. So we started doing what? Iftar. Producing fabrications against the Quran. What did they say about the Quran? Ancient tales, right? How am I gonna convince you not to look at something? Allah said it's true, but they didn't want others to follow him. They started saying, don't follow this nonsense. This is a man, crazy. They called him crazy. They called him a poet. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they said, well, they kind of start throwing all kinds of fabrications, hoping one of them would stick. Right? And they also said that it's nothing but ancient tales. He kind of assembled some ancient tales he learned, he heard, put them together, jumbled them up, and it's this thing. Right? Instead of really addressing what the Quran says. So what did they say? Attack the messenger instead of talking about the message. Because you cannot talk about the message because it's so amazing. It's so powerful that they used to go and they placed plugs in their ears. Why are you so afraid? If you're so smart and you're so intelligent, why are you afraid of hearing it? Because they understood its power. And if it's really magic, then why are you not being affected by that magic? Right? They said it's magic. So why are you not being affected? If Prophet Muhammad is such a magician, and this world is magic, it should affect everyone. Right? But why are you not affected? Because it's fabrications. Nonsensical fabrications. And yet people fall for them. See what happens with our intellects? When we're not guided by Allah, even the brain starts to producing nonsense. We see it all around us in our lives. People who start talking nonsense. And people follow the nonsense. You tweet it out, right? You post it on Facebook, and people follow it. That's the crazy stuff. Look after that, we even politics say, how are people like voting for such and such? Like, how? You know politicians speak nonsense, fabrications. We know it, they know it. They tell it works, and people know it, and yet they still support. What's happening? Because our minds misguide us, and we don't see truth as truth. And we don't see falsehood as falsehood. So Allah says, no, but they're fabricating against it. Then He emphasizes yet again, بَلْ هُوَ No, certainly it is the truth, مِنْ رَبِّكَ, from Allah Azza wa Jalla, from your Lord. For what purpose? لِتُنْذِرَ قَوْمًا مَا أَتَاهُم مِّن نَذِيرٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَهْتَدُونَ. So you warn people, so that you remind people, awaken them in the hope that they're guided. So Allah is interested in guiding us. Allah wants us to be guided. You're going to see an amazing theme emerging in the surah. This world. You know, how do we know? Again, question about existence of God. Allah's going to show us why it really is the case. The argument is so clear why there is a God. Allah didn't create this world in play. Isn't that what we learn? right? We heard, again, all kinds of theories explaining the reality, attempting to explain the reality of this world. Wallahi, nonsense. They came up with the theory on their own. Like, and Allah tells us, have you gotten a record, a document from somebody from the other world telling you this is the truth? Like, so how did you come up with it? Your mind wins. Oh God, they say God doesn't exist. So you say, okay, how does this make sense then? How do you make sense of this incredibly intricate world that fits together? Right? And the fact that we feel emotions, we spoke about this many, many times. But how do you make sense? They said, well, maybe God exists, but he left it alone. Nonsense. So they come up with all kinds of theories, none of which is based on a foundation. Right? We always say, even in our interactions, well, produce your evidence. Where's your evidence? Did you get this from a written statement from someone? Right? An authority? Nobody just accepts random works. Isn't it true? We're always challenging the authenticity of the claims of people. Why suddenly we don't challenge the authenticity and the claims of people who come up with nonsense about the existence of God? Allah says, it is how. Here it is. In the hope that you got it. So Allah's not just creating us in random play. No. It's purposeful, and He wants to guide you to it. He's not interested in us suffering, as many people misinterpret. Right? It's the misinterpretation. Because we adore this world, so we start saying God exists, but He's evil. Because He is allowing evil to happen. Well, no, our vision is limited to this world. But Allah's world is bigger. Remember the other world? So the meaning of this, what you think is suffering, is not suffering. If you were accessing the next world, you'll see that it's not. But because we're limited to here, we think it is. So we start to come up again with claims against God, attributing nonsense to God. Right? Allah says, I'm interested in you. My mercy is enfolding you. And I want to guide you. And then He reminds us, so here's a surah now compelling us to contemplate the sons of Allah. Right? He says, okay, I gave you a mind, I want you to use it to start analyzing these symbols around you, these signs around you. And if you humbly do this, remember wisdom in Surah Potomac? Gratitude. But what else? What demonstrated somebody's wisdom? How did they walk? They walk with what? Humility. If we're humble, if we just humbly, reflect on the sons of Allah, they'll take us there. But with humility, not arrogance, not refusal and rejection. So Allah says, here I am, I'm giving you a sign. Allah الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وما بينهما في ستة أيام ثم استوى على العرش. So Allah's revealing to us, already, telling us things about this world, the other world, that we will never know. You'll never know about angels. You'll never know about the Day of Judgment. You'll never know about some fact about Allah's creation, how He did things without Allah revealing it to you in the Quran. Impossible. How beautiful that we have a document that allows us, gives us information about a world that we cannot see or perceive. The only conduit, channel that you have to the heavens is this, to understand anything from the heavens. So Allah says, it is Allah who created the heavens and the earth. That's it. Records say, because He said this is the haq. So you want to ask the question, how did it come? I am telling you, Allah created it. He's saying, I created it. And let me give you an additional fact. It's still mysterious to you. So start to analyze it according to your parameters. He created it in 6 days. And it's not your days. Because Allah sits above what? Time. But now, words, how do you understand that words? The only vehicle I have is words. But can words, limited, capture the true essence and reality of that infinite world? Impossible. So what Allah gives us are words that we understand in this world, but they're nothing but approximations. So when He says day, it's not your day, my day, because Allah is above space and time. Allah is above space and time. In fact, how are the days produced in our world? How do I understand it? What's the concept of day? It's based on what? Very simple. Rotation of Earth around its axis. Not by itself. It rotates. Is that enough? Is that going to make 9 a day? You have to rotate. The sun rotates 24 hours around itself. In the presence of what? The sun. And because we rotate, you start seeing this cycle of sun rising and sun descending. Right? We produce something called a day. If you go to Mars, is the day 24 hours? No, it's not. It rotates, I believe, much slower. Right? Much slower around itself. So the day is really long. Right? Imagine Pluto. Imagine all the stars. What's there then? What about if the rotation is so slow or very fast? Right? Like pulsar stars. I believe they rotate like, oh God, it's crazy. It's like 1,000 spins in a second. Can you imagine there's a star that spins around itself 1,000 times a second? It's like, what kind of a day is that? Right? Oh, subhanAllah, that's the world of Allah. Pulsating constantly, 1,000 times around itself in a second. That's the world of Allah. So all this was created by Allah. The sun was created by Allah. Earth was created by Allah. Rotation was created by Allah. So how do we say that Allah has a day? Right? Because this is in our world only. But He's giving us the term yawm to just for us to understand. Right? But Allah doesn't take time to do things. Allah doesn't need time. He's above. He transcends time and space. Space and time are concepts of this world. That's it. Allah's transcendent and infinite. You cannot be put into a form, or put into a time frame, or put into a space. But yet He tells us, and we have to just submit to it. The mystery. He created the world in 6 days. Then He says, what's in between them? So there is a process of creation. And Allah doesn't leave us there. He's going to give us additional details in the surah of how you were created and constructed. So that you ask one question. Wow, all this design, shouldn't it have a purpose? Because if there's a lot of intricate design has to have a purpose. Otherwise, why such intricacy? And why such completeness? Allah is inviting us to think. So He says afterward, ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. Translation, mounted the throne. Again, does He mount the throne like a human being sits on a throne? Is the throne like our? No, it's not transcendent. It's in a matter that we will never be able to comprehend until we're in that world. You'll never understand it. So you submit. So some scholars said, so that nothing plays with your head at all, right? In terms of form and matter, when you think about Allah, this is nothing but a symbol pointing to the authority of Allah. Because who sits on the throne in our world? Kings. To symbolize power, authority, right? Allah is using this expression because it's beyond it. Some scholars said, well, we don't know that it's definitely a meaning, but Allah does mount the throne, but it's in a matter that we will never understand because Allah's not a body, right? Makes sense? So it's both. You can look at it as both. But ultimately, it's a reminder from Allah of His ultimate power, absolute, infinite power and source of power and authority. Telling us, where are you submitting to? Shouldn't you be submitting to me? Do you think there's a veil between you and me? Do you think anything, yahulu, will prevent you from me, will protect you, will veil you, will obstruct you from me? There's no veil. Right? Allah has access to everything because He made everything. That's why we say, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Hawl is a barrier. We mistranslate this expression often. Say la hawla. You know, it's a beautiful. Allah said this expression is a kenz, a treasure from paradise. Why? It's reminding us of this verse, of ultimate authority. Allah says la, none, nay, no. Hawl is a barrier, like that pillar wall that stands between me, or Jamal is a hawl between me and Shazad. He's standing in between. So I cannot access Shazad because there's a barrier. That's hawl. Quwwa is what? Power. So there is no barrier, no power to allow you to do except Allah. Nothing can hold you back. Nothing is a real barrier. Nothing can protect you from evil. Nothing can permit you to do a thing except Allah. Every single thing, absolutely. Even the thought that emerges in your head is from Allah. All the cellular activities in your body, from Allah. Every single operation, brothers and sisters. And we've shared before statements from scientists, including the founder of quantum physics, who said that every atomic vibration originates from a source beyond it. Right? And he wanted to say God, but he didn't. He said the matrix, the mysterious matrix. That's the source of all of this. It's not from it. It originates from outside. He said it's very evident. All their observations and all the science that they've conducted on the atom to say that it is vibrated by an external source whose energy allows it to vibrate. That's Allah reminding us in this surah, in this verse, excuse me. And he tells us, you have none beyond him who's going to serve as a wali or a shafi'ah. Wali is your protector. Shafi'ah is an intercessor. Nobody can intercede on your behalf with Allah without his permission. And you have none. Allah has to appoint him, meaning that he's everything. He's everything, right? He's your only protector. He is your really only intercessor, so to speak. Wouldn't you remember this essential meaning? Isn't it? This all words. You see the simplicity and the beauty of it? Yet what? We struggle with it. Because of what? Because we fool ourselves with our eyes and the body that wants to adore this world, wants to indulge itself in this world to the point where the heart becomes blind. Then Allah tells us in verse 5, يدبر الأمر من السماء إلى الأرض ثم يعرج إليه في يوم كان مقداره ألف سنة مما تعدون. Here's another mysterious verse where Allah says يدبر الأمر. يدبر, tadbir means to administer, run, manage things, plan it out. Plan it out completely. Tadbir is like the precise, taking care of the precise details, the intricate, tiny details of something, completely of what? Al-Amr. Yudabbir al-Amr, the whole command and all the affairs. So Allah didn't just answer those who say God created the world and loved it. What does he say here? No, I'm Qayyum. Al-Hayyu, Al-Qayyum. What is Qayyum? Comes from Qa'im, standing, or Qa'im ala shay, like constantly making something stand. So I'm holding this. It's not in this position on its own. No, I am the one holding it. Imagine the hand of Allah, no comparisons, holding everything and running every single operation in the heavens and the earth. He's behind it. That's why I shared that statement from the scientist, Max Planck, who said that thing about every single vibration comes from an external source that runs it in that time. If you disrupt or stop that energy from flowing, the operation stops. We're dead, brothers and sisters, if Allah is not sustaining us right now. It's not just because of your heart. No, Allah's sustaining the beats right now. It's an external source for sure. For sure. Our consciousness, none of it can happen right now without Allah. Wow, how does he do that, all of that? He says, يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ, all of that. But then he tells us more details. He says, he administers and runs all the details. From the heavens to the earth. Remember the world of the command of Allah? Alam al-Amr. He issues all the commands. How does Allah, by the way, initiate? What does he say? Kun. 2 letters. Mysterious. Kun. Done. It manifests right. So Allah doesn't have time. Allah doesn't work according to those parameters because he transcends it. So he issues the command. Done. It's created. But then when it manifests in our world, it's elongated over what? Time. Does it make sense? It's a little bit hard concept to understand. The world of Allah is above this. There's no time. He produced this world, right? And imagine you're looking at a water tank, like a fish tank. You're looking at it from the outside. So fish are moving in that space, but you're above it. So you create your own world in it, and you're just observing the whole thing. Or like you observing cars passing by, right? It's like, imagine sitting on a roof and you see the movement of the cars, you see everything. And it's all contained in that street. But your experience is not like their experience of reality because you're sitting from the outside. That's it, very simple. Even past and present. For the cars, they're moving through points, right? So when they cross a point, it's behind them. But if you're looking at things from the roof, you see everything. Past, present, and future all one. This is a very simple analogy. Imagine Allah Azza wa Jal. So He's telling us, He issues those commands and they are the source, the reason why everything exists here. So you were issued by command of Allah. Kun, and you are. So He tells us these commands descend from the heavens to the earth into the world of form. ثُمَّ يَعْرُجُ إِلَيْهِ. Allah reminds us of something amazing that will happen. He says, everything in this world, the created order, the world of form and matter, all the affairs, all the souls, everything in it, all the actions and their outcomes are going to return back to Allah. On a day that appears to be 1,000 years, He says, from what you count. Again, what is this 1,000 years? We get entangled by these verses. The day of Allah is equal to 1,000, and we start thinking days and nights and years. That's the world of Allah. He's approximating for us because the words cannot capture the reality of that world, nor convey their meaning and essence. So He says it's like 1,000 years of what you count. Meaning what? If for you it's too long, but for Allah it's what? It's very quick. Does that make sense? So a day for Allah is like 1,000 from what we count. Right? Well, in another surah, Surah Al-Ma'arij, He says 50,000, referring to the day of judgment where all the souls and the angels return back to Allah. He says it's like 50,000. So wait, is it 1,000 or 50,000? Allah saying it's long. For you, it's not 50 or 1,000. It's not. He's just using these expressions, right, based on the scholarly interpretation, to just convey the fact that for Allah it's nothing, no time. But for you it feels very long if you were to really experience it here. But when you emerge out of this world, it's going to feel like what? Blink of an eye. So Allah says, when you come out of this world, you think you've lived all the expensive years and years and years of life. When you come out of this world, you see reality, and now you remember this life. And how do you remember it? It's like, was it an hour? Was it part of the day? Allah says, you're going to say that. It's going to feel like a dream. What's another experience I always refer to that captures that? I just said it. Sleep in dreams. What happens in dreams? You slip into the dream, right? And you have a story. I had an adventure about it. Just last night, I'm glad I was out of it. It's not fun. Things break. Like, oh my goodness, like, wow. Dramatic things happening in the story that I was living. I was like, whoa, that was, when I woke up, like, I woke up from this. But then something else. It felt like a long time. But when I came out, I'm like, my goodness, I remember I woke up and I went back to sleep. It's like 15 minutes. All that happened in 15 minutes? Allah's giving us different experiences of perception of time. To tell us, I'm even showing it to you in your dreams. You slipped into, even the movie Inception is all about this, right? As you delve deeper into dreams, you start experiencing longer kind of experiences of time. But in the world of the one who's dreaming it, it's much shorter perception of time. By the way, according to the theory of relativity, this is all based on Einsteinian physics. At the speed of light, what happens? Nothing gets to the speed of light. As you get faster and faster, you move faster and faster. Now, I'm not talking about using driving a Tesla, Ferrari. No, I'm talking about massive speeds. Massive speeds, even getting closer to the speed of light. What happens to time? Does it go faster or slower? Slower. If you go into space and start traveling at fast speeds, your experience of time will start to be elongated. Like, things will not feel like a year. Like, a year will be like an hour. That's it. And you'll be living a long time. So if you really go out into space and come back to this world, you'll be much younger. You'll not have white hairs. So here, I might have lived 10 years. For the person living in space, it's like a day. SubhanAllah, this is real physics.
It's called time dilation.
Time dilation, right? So let's tell you, I'm just giving you experiences. Imagine the mysteries. How is that world going to be? There's no past or future in it. So Allah's telling us, everything will go back to Allah in like this. Blink of an eye. but it appears to you in this world to be 1,000 years or 50,000. Make sense? Now, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, ذَلِكَ عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ الْعَزِيزُ الرَّحِيمُ. That is Him. Alim, the knower of what? The two worlds of the Shahada, the witness world, your world, and the Alam al-Ghayb, the world that is unknown to you, that is veiled from you. Al-Aziz al-Rahim, the powerful, the merciful. This verse sums up the essential qualities about Allah. What are they? The most important things to know about Allah's qualities, what are they? 3. His complete, we refer to it with a pronoun. His complete what? Power and authority. No one has power over Allah. None. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. What else? Is that enough? Imagine if all we think about Allah is authority and power. We'll be scared. Right? He does have it, but Allah is also what? Very what? Rahman. Very merciful. Absolutely, infinitely merciful. Wow, how beautiful is Allah. Imagine, this is our, you know when you ask why Islam? What's different about our conceptions of God? It is perfect. Perfect conception of God. He's the most powerful, yet the most merciful. And what else does he have? Imagine he's powerful. Well, a king can be powerful, not fully powerful, but has some power, has some mercy. Is that enough to run the affairs of your kingdom? What else do you need? What is? Rahim, that's mercy, power. But what? Okay, I'm powerful, I'm merciful. But I don't know what's happening in the life of Jamal. Knowledge, exactly. You have to have knowledge. Allah has full knowledge. All summed up in verse 6. He says, what else do you need in Allah? Isn't it enough for you, for me? SubhanAllah. That's true, brothers and sisters. Who can see that? Allah is telling us in the surah who can really see it. Remember the veil? The ones who are going to perform certain acts and follow the Quran, and the light of the Quran will be able to see it and sense it and experience it. Then Allah says, reminding us of His creation again, inviting the mind to think back, use your faculty. He says, الَّذِي أَحْسَنَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقَ وَبَدَأَ خَلْقَ الْإِنسَانِ مِنْ طِينٍ. He says, the one, let me tell you more about me. He perfected, beautified everything He created. Wow, this is really deep. He says, well, everything that I made is, everything He issued in that world, the world of the commands of Allah, is perfect. It manifests here in what? Our bodies, our experiences. Now, what happens in the body? It's going to get ill, blood, people hurt each other, all kinds of things happen, right? What do we start saying? It's the world of evil. We start to say, well, why did God allow it? It's imperfect. How come this person is short? How come this person doesn't see with one, except with one eye? Oh, why did God make it that way? We start to question what? God's wisdom, knowledge, and perfection. Allah says, no, it's your eyes that are incomplete. It is perfect. If you were to see the other world and see God's wisdom and knowledge, right? Because the reality is not just this world, but we start to judge things based on the parameters of this world. That's why we become dissatisfied, remember? Discontented, ungrateful. Allah says, trust me, it's perfect. It's beautiful. It's your eyes that are fooling you. Even an illness, yes, it is perfect. It's meant to deliver a purpose, fulfill a purpose. You just do not understand the purpose. You do not understand the purpose. Why such and such is suffering from this or that. All are creation of Allah, and it's perfect. It's just our misjudgment of it. So Allah says, الَّذِي أَحْسَنَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقَ. And He tells us, well, let me remind you, if you're not seeing it, then at least trust me. You know, again, the best analogy that captures this is for me, children with parents. The parent is asking the child to sleep early, to drink milk, right, to study. The child saying, no, nonsense, it's too much work. Why are you making me suffer, right? The parent tries to explain and the child doesn't get it. 5 years of age, how am I going to get that, right? Why do I have to take bitter medicine? What are you doing to me? You're hurting me, right? No, I'm helping you. I don't get it. I don't want that. And we say, well, one day you'll know. Trust me, you'll know. 20 years when your intellect has matured a little bit, you'll understand. When you yourself are father and mother, you'll understand. But you know that 5-year-old is not going to get it. Allah says, He's telling us, just trust me. It is perfect. Just be what? Content and grateful. Remember Luqman? He got it. It's like, yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I just have to submit. Be in harmony with the commands of Allah. Be in harmony with them. And when you do this, your heart comes to experience tranquility and starts to see and perceive reality as reality is. That's powerful. So Allah's telling us, furthering this reflection for you. Why should you trust me? Why should I? That demands me believing that God exists. He says, okay, let me give you another example of why really, necessarily, there has to be a perfect God. He says, وَبَدَأَ خَلْقَ الْإِنسَانِ مِنْهُ. Let me tell you about the process of creation so that you start to trust me. It is He who constructed you from clay, from dust. Look at your body. Actually, they've analyzed the skin of human beings. They contain the same elements as sand. Can you believe this? If you look at sand and the construction of sand and the elements forming sand, same material is in the skin. Like you came from there. You know it. I know it. It's like, okay, who did that? Why did it have to be again that way? Why is it so intricate? Then he didn't stop. Then he says, ثُمَّ جَعَلَ نَسْلَهُ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ مَاءٍ مَهِينٍ. Well, if it was just Adam alayhi salam constructed from that, and there's no additional aspects to his creation, will not exist. Why? How are we here? Allah says, let me remind you again of the intricate process that I put in place for you to exist. I created the first human beings from clay. Then I put forth a process of reproduction. How are you reproduced? Through a fluid that's transmitted from male to female. There's insemination, sperm and an egg, carried with a fluid. Allah says, who put that in place? Without that, you and I do not exist. So He says, your progeny, generation after generation after generation, is permitted to be, is allowed only through that process of reproduction, through semen and through fluid. And this fluid happens to be very lowly. Very lowly. It's like, you'd be disgusted from it. Yet it's the material and the substance that contains your essence. This fluid that you're looking at, you like don't want to look at it. You know what it contains? Your essence. Think about it. All your genes, every part of you is contained in that little tiny fluid, right? And subhanAllah, and the sperm carries it, and then it interacts with the egg, and you evolve into what you are. Wow, you're transmitting the genes and the cells through that little thing that you don't want even to look at. Allah says, yeah, who made that? Why does it have to be that way? Who constructed it so beautifully and intricately? It's so intricate and complex. Random. Wow, who chose it? There has to be intelligence behind that design. It's an intricate design. That's what the surah is saying. Let me invite you to reflect on an example of an intricate design about you. Just think about you. You see where you originated from. The process itself, when then the embryo got implanted, right? I'll tell you, I'll go into the next part of the process. But before that, in other verses of the Quran, Allah says, well, then this thing got planted in the womb, and then it started to grow, etc., etc. For 9 months, its precise duration. Why does it have to be that way? Allah's inviting us to think, it's an intricate design. It's an amazing design. Does it not have purpose? Really? Like, we must be really dumb to think that amazing, intelligent design does not have purpose. We attribute purpose to everything. So, hey, John, what did you mean by that? Why do I have to mean anything? Because my mind demands that there is meaning behind that thing. What did you mean by it? What was your intention? Don't we see that? Why suddenly, for our own creation, and we look at our faculty and how we were made, we don't say what was the intention. There has to be intention. There has to be purpose. You're saying it's unintended? Yet every single thing we say, behind it is an intention. When I drink this water, there is an intention to satiate myself and full my, satisfy my thirst. There's an intention. Why suddenly, behind our creation, there is no intention? So it's actually an answer to the question of God, and the existence of God, right here. Allah doesn't stop. Then He says, ثُمَّ سَوَّاهُ وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِهِ وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. He says, but your construction is not just body. Let me give you another secret. He says, I proportioned you. Again, a reference to the intricate design. But you have something else in you that makes you noble and honorable, not just that semen, not that fluid. You can live like that. Body, worshipping, adoring this world, indulging. That is really the form. But you have something else. وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ I breathe into you from my spirit, from that world. Which means you have an essence in you, substance, that compels you where? To connect with them. You have it already. You have a fitrah. It's ingrained in you because part of your construction is that essence that pulls you to me. By the way, if we didn't have that spirit, we will not. We'll just, all we'll see is this. We'll not perceive that reality. You know when you pray, you start feeling Allah? That's all from the soul. But the soul needs exercises so that it can start to perceive that world of Allah as-SAJDA and feel His presence. Then he says, third element, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ and I'm giving you the faculty of hearing, of sight, and hearts. Why did He give us the faculty of sight, hearing, and the hearts to perceive? So that we can connect with Allah. He says, then use your faculty that I've given you to contemplate the signs of Allah. When you use them properly for the purposes they were created for. Remember, there's no accidents. I gave you sight for a reason. I gave you hearing for a reason. Hear the message of Allah. Look at His signs and don't think of them as just products to consume. No, as revelations themselves. Speaking to you about the presence of a hand behind them. Use your faculty. That's what Allah says. So 3 elements. The physical body comes from this earth to live on this earth. Then Allah says further, I've given you a soul, a spirit from me, so that you can perceive me and connect to the heavens. And your soul wants to live there. Jannah, not here. And I've given you faculty to interact with this world so that you reflect on the signs of Allah and ultimately arrive at Allah. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, let me remind you, verse 11, قُلْ يَتَوَفَّاكُمْ مَلَكُ الْمَوْتِ There shall come a time when you'll see all of this, when the angel of death comes to you and you shall return to me. Who can tell us this but Allah? Here he is, he sums it up. Reality. And he's asking us, can't you see your origin from the fluid, lowly fluid? How do you not think that you're going to return? Your body shall return to earth and the soul shall return to its home, which is Allah. It's actually the story of life tells us this already. Process in the cycle of life and death, right? Constant in front of us. All of them are reminders from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Then Allah reminds us, takes us into the next world, the next set of verses, where He tells us those criminals who denied, who rebelled against all of this, when they return to Allah, you know what their state will be? He says, نَاكِسُوا رُؤُوسِهِمْ Their heads will be lowered in humiliation. When they realize what? Oops, what did I miss? How did I not see this? And I've wasted my life. That on that day, they'll be completely disgraced because they were fabricating against the word of Allah. He says, you shall see this. The promise of Allah is fulfilled. It's already done. Remember in the world of the spirit, there's no time. It's already done. We just think it's taking time. We just think that the criminals and the oppressors, they're going to have their day for sure. It's already a command executed. Remember, like the command's already happened. It's not that Allah is going to issue the command. It's just manifesting over time in our eyes. And when life is over, you shall see the realities. For sure. Any act of injustice. All these acts of injustice shall have their day with Allah Azza wa Jalla. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, and inshallah we'll wrap up with a couple of verses. Verse 15 and 16 and 17 are very at the core of the surah. The essence of the surah is coming down to this. After all this talk, look at the gentle transition into this. When Allah says, إنما يؤمن بآياتنا الذين إذا ذكروا بها خروا سجدا وسبحوا بحمد ربهم وهم لا يستكبرون. He says, here it is. The ones who really believe this, believe in this Quran, believe that behind these signs is Allah and its perfection. Why are the ones who are going to believe? He says, they're the ones who, when they're reminded, they see the signs, they hear the words of Allah. What happens to them? Because they're humble people, they really see it right away. is not confusing, he says you're going to see them living life how? Whenever they're reminded, خَرُّوا سُجَدًا, they cannot but fall on the ground in prostration. Because they see it so well. And they feel that their bodies need to do this with Allah, the physical body in this world. So their thoughts are drawn where? Up. See, the signs of Allah should compel you to do something. The thoughts pull you up to Allah. Signs of Allah pull you to Him. You start thinking about Him. The spirit starts to feel His presence. And what happens to the body? What should happen to the body? It cannot go up. Where does it go? Down in prostration. SubhanAllah. He says, if you do this, you're among those believers. Your thoughts are pulled up. When you contemplate the signs of Allah, you look around, your thoughts take you to Allah. If you're really fair, your thoughts should take you to Allah. And you start to feel His presence, and your body feels the need, the urgency to fall and do sujood to Allah. Not because you have to, because you feel that you really, really need to do that. Not because somebody told you, not coerced. Then he says, verse 16, something mysterious. He says, when you start to do this over and over and over, you're reading the word of Allah with rigor, with effort, and you're making an effort to prostrate to Allah over and over and over. It gets to a point where your heart is so in love with Allah. It adores Him so much. It feels His presence so much that He says, at night, what is the thing we desire the most physically? Isn't it true? At least suffering. It's like you have to stop suffering, right? If you can sleep. If you can stop the thoughts a little bit, you can get to sleep. And you're like, I got 3 hours of just rest, right? That's the ultimate thing we really adore. He says, they're so connected to me. These people, they're so in adoration of Allah. They feel His presence so much that even their limbs start to refuse the beds. Their limbs start, after a few hours, they start moving to pull you out of your bed on their own. On their own. Now, ask people who pray at night. They do tahajjud at night regularly. They say, I cannot but wake up at 3. I cannot but wake up at 4. My body's pulling me. You have to like an automatic clock, and then that pulls them up to be with Allah. They adore their time with Allah in prostration so much. They're so in love with it that they prefer it over what? The ultimate experience of Allah, which is physical comfort. By the way, does it make sense? It makes no sense. Because it's the world of what? The heart and soul. That's different logic. And you have to experience it and taste it. Like, you know how amazing the water is? And like, I never drank water. I'm from Mars. Say, only if you drink it. You have to drink it to feel it. And when you feel that presence of Allah through those prostrations at night, you're going to experience something more delightful than any physical experiences. Allah said, here it is. Then that world will be unveiled to you. Now, there's a hadith about the hereafter, where on the day of judgment, the Prophet ﷺ says, a call will come out saying, where are those whose limbs used to forsake their beds? Come out. And a few people will come out, and a gate of Jannah opens, and they enter, and then it's shut. And everybody else is taken to the land of judgment. The first people, those are the people of Allah who spend the most intimate time with Allah at night time to be in His presence. That's the beauty of tahajjud. That's the beauty of praying at night. And the Prophet says, Ashrafu ummati, the dignitaries among my ummah are the people of the Quran and the people of praying at night. The most noble. Here it is. The act that will get us closer and closer to Allah is praying, but praying when? At night. And the ultimate is the last third part of the night, before Fajr. 2-3 hours before Fajr. You get that, you're set. You're among the best of the best, and those who really feel the presence of Allah, who really experience Him. And it's not just a matter of limbs and intellect anymore. It's a tasting. And you become strengthened further and further. Then Allah says, inshallah we'll stop with this. فَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُم مِّن قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. He says, you want to know what is waiting from them in the other world? He says, no soul knows what has been hidden from them, from the pleasure of the eyes. قُرَّةِ أَعْيُنٍ, I'll explain it. جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. He says, okay, what's waiting for them in terms of reward? You don't know. It cannot be described. The closest description of the pleasures that awaits the believer is what? You don't know. Can you imagine? Like the best way to explain it is that you don't know. Because it cannot be complicated. Allah says, it's qurrat ayn. Qurra means the thing that settles, makes some sense. He says, for your eyes alone, what you're going to experience and see will not make your eyes want to move. You just keep looking at it. Because you're so infatuated by it, that your eyes will not even move. And qurr also means coolness. When your eyes are happy, they feel cool, don't they? And when you're angry, don't you feel heat? We feel heat in our faces. He says coolness. You shall see and experience it. It's waiting, it's done. But it's hidden. So the Prophet ﷺ says in a hadith Qudsi, Allah himself, he says, أعددت لعبادي الصالحين ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب بشر. I prepared for my righteous servants that which no eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard, and nothing that can cross the imagination. Enough said. And here's the verse confirming it. And then Allah wraps up the surah by reminding us of the fulfillment of His promise of Musa, and how Allah honored the children of Israel, and He said, amongst them, the ones who were guided were the ones who did a lot of striving with Allah. Meaning what? You have to what? Do you want to see this promise fulfilled? Strive to Allah. Strive in these efforts, in learning, in prostrating, in enjoying good. Strive in ihsan, in excelling, because Allah excelled in everything He has done. He says, when you start to strive, you shall see the fulfillment of the promise. But regardless, whether you believe or disbelieve, the day when you return to Allah shall come, and things will be sorted out, and the veil is removed, and you're going to see everything clearly. So clearly. So he wraps up the surah by saying to the Prophet ﷺ, how do I deal with the people hurting me, fabricating and doing all kinds of things to obstruct from the path of Allah? Wraps up the surah by saying, okay, فَأَعْرَضْ عَنْهُمْ وَانْتَظِرْ إِنَّهُمْ مُنْتَظِرُونَ. Just turn away from them. Turn away from them and wait. Wait for the answer. It's coming, and they're waiting too, but they're waiting for to prove what? Themselves right. Just wait. Wallahi, you shall see it. And when you see it, it's like a what? Blink of an eye. But you just do not see it as such. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Shall we open the floor for questions and comments?
The last surah we've done with mine and some SAJDA. Today, that brings me to talk about the kids, how you talk to them, and they have all the rebellious. And now at their age 14, I was on that age, I was not. But listen to the last surah. I hear people make millions of dollars of it. Law of Attraction, and Tony Robinson's book, The Secret. It's all based on, to me, it's all spiritual, just condensed and explained different, in a way that people can understand it better. So I use that for my kids in the reverse sense. I use that to bring them to this believe in themselves. Some motivational speakers. I use that and we sit there and watch that and try to bring them to them, because I just go with the Quran. This is what it says. It's kind of, it took, at my age, I understand. Okay, at that age, at teenage age, I did not, so for me, that's how I use it to work with my kids right now. So, I don't know if that's the right way.
Jazakallah, barakallah. This is one thing that Muslims got in trouble with. They say, Allah, this is the book, the truth, so it's the only book. No, this is the mother of the books that points us. Without it, you're lost, but it points us to go explore and use the experiences of the world and even the knowledge produced by the minds of others to explain things, to relate things. Imagine if all we had studied in our lives in the Quran. What would it happen? Well, why did Allah put us in this world? This is a guide to guide us into this world. So when you're using this, you're using things that your children can relate to. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. You know what the Prophet ﷺ says? الحكمة ضالة المؤمن أينما وجدها فهو أحق الناس بها. كما قال رسول الله. He says the wisdom is the lost property of the believer. Wherever he finds it, go after it. You find it in China, go. Learn it. Wallahi, we have Muslims saying, oh, if it's a book written written by somebody, and it's a good book. You say, well, okay, just get the good things out of it and leave the rest. But you have to have foundation to differentiate. Don't do that. Even if somebody who disbelieves in Allah and he has something good to offer, something good though, and you heard wisdom from him, learn it. Learn it. These are the words of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Now don't get entangled in that without what? Your reference points. This is your reference point. Because some people start saying, well, I don't need this. No. Edie, this is your anchor. This shines the light for you on your path. Now you can go out and explore and produce knowledge and learn knowledge and wisdom. Whatever means that deliver you to your destination. So my child, I need to explain the story in a different way. Visualize and experience something different to get into the truth. And let me do that. That's wisdom. That's also understanding that minds are different. Intellects are different. But we cannot just use one form, but the anchor is this. Now maybe that's the way to bring them to this. Jazakallah khair. That is really, and we shouldn't be like second guessing ourselves. No, whatever really makes sense, Allah says follow it, inshallah. To bring that person to an understanding and comprehension. Inshallah.
I'm in awe. This is one of the very unusual surah. Now, on one hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks of the mysterious words, and we don't understand anything. And then He gives us the ways, He gives us rule, and He gives us a book. And then He talks with us, I call it the sharp heart, where we really don't understand. First He says, by clearing this word in 6 days. And then suddenly I start getting it's 1,000 years or 50,000 years. And then He talks about his Aziz, and He says that he's got it, we'll call it chair, very huge. And then he said, we don't understand that. He puts Himself on that seat, high seat. And then on Surah in Ayatul Kursi, He talks about the chair. So there's a lot of things in this that I'm baffled. I really don't understand that it's so much mysterious. On one hand, He says that you cannot understand what's going on in that word. Yet He gives us a ways to get there. And I think somewhere I read that some of the jinns who were able to listen what's going on in that word, He stopped that.
Yeah.
So it's a very strange surah for me to understand that there are so many things He's saying, but then I guess our mind cannot fathom how many things are He said at the same time, and we are thinking this is 6 days, but then this is years.
Jazakallah khair. This really summed it up in this even moment of awe. Like what I actually say is Dr. Ali is, what I sense in him is awe. I'm like in awe. I don't understand this. Awe. It's not just I'm understanding, I'm confused, nonsense. No, I'm in awe. This surah says you're going to be in awe. You have no idea the limit, the boundlessness of the word of Allah. And yet, as you said beautifully, I can allow you to access it. Even though jinn were not, put your hand down. You know the Prophet said actually, in prostration, what's the closest point to Allah? Physically can't get there. As soon as you put your head down, you're in Mi'raj. What is Mi'raj? You know the journey of the Mi'raj was the journey of the Prophet physically and in his soul transmitted to that world. He says, so the scholar said, your Mi'raj to Allah, instantaneous to that veiled world, is when you put your hand on the ground, really don't sync with Allah. Not put your hand ground and you're thinking, Subhana Rabbi al-Ala, but you're thinking about the next meal. No, you really need to meditate on Allah and really push yourself and keep glorifying Him over and over. The world shall start to open. The doors of the unseen shall start to open to you, one by one, but you still cannot comprehend it. And what Allah conveys to us with His words are symbols. They're just nothing but symbols. Because how can you understand? How can you comprehend the infiniteness of that world and the meanings and the mysteries behind it? Just trusting in that by itself carries us in this life. So that we're no longer like, when we stumped by a question, oh, somebody said this, atheist said that. Like, oh, I can't believe this argument. Like, enough for you to submit to Allah. Don't you trust? That's why, by the way, he tells us, didn't you see your process of creation? Isn't that enough for you to just say, I submit? Submission also means I don't have to understand. And no one argument should throw me off, right? So people ask me the question about something. I say, okay, I can attempt to explain it to you, but it's not going to be the full answer. Then how do I trust? Because it really is hard to understand why wars are happening. It's the act of human beings, but why is the child suffering? I have to submit because I do believe in Allah and His wisdom. I see what He's done. There has to be a purpose. I'm like a little kid. I don't have to understand the purpose fully, but I have to submit and wait. Alhamdulillah. One day I'll find out. That's what I say. But how does that shape my belief in Allah? Because the alternative makes no sense. Like, the alternative is there's no God. Or evil God. It's like, what? He's God, but He's evil? Like, what is that nonsense? Right? He's God, but He doesn't know? What? Right? Or He doesn't exist. But then how do I explain me? See my point? So let me go back to the fundamental point. God exists and He's perfect. And I'm not perfect, so I have to submit. That's it. There are things I'll understand. There are infinite mysteries I'll never understand. See how beautiful it is, summed up beautifully in this surah.
He gives us the eyes and the heart.
With which, exactly.
Along with Quran and SURAH.
Right.
He's giving us all the
He's giving us the faculty to get to Him, exactly. But they need to be used. Shabbat is another one for
I actually did want to hit this point that I think was really important to God, which I think illustrates, the balance between intellect versus the text. And that is, you didn't say it, but which basically talking about anthropomorphism. That's basically attributing human attributes to Allah, Jalla wa ala. And, one of the common tropes that atheists use to kind of poke fun at religion is, God is just this bald old man in the sky, and He has a really long beard. And to be fair to them, if that was our conception of God, I would just believe in that too. Why would God be some old white man who has a very long
Isn't that amazing?
in the sky?
Isn't that crazy? Like when they draw God, like his white beard, white.
He says white even though he's Palestinian, he doesn't believe so.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, so they make fun of that, right? And besides the examples that you use to kind of disprove, the anthropomorphism, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in Surah Ash-Shura, I think it's ayat 11, Laysa kamithlihi shay. Allah is nothing like His creation, like shay, like anything. He's nothing like His creation. And there's a certain strand of Islam, which I will not say because we're being recorded, that for some reason is pushing this idea that, it says in the Quran, that Yad Allah, the hand of Allah, therefore Allah has 5 fingers like the rest of us. It's like, what are you talking about? Or I'll use a kind of humorous example, Allah refers to Himself as He, therefore Allah must be a man. I was reading a story a couple months ago where one congresswoman, you guys, know who she is, but again, we're being recorded, so I won't say. She said that my Allah isn't a man, my Allah is a she. My Allah is a she. First of all, ignoring the fact that you're using a pronoun that Allah didn't describe Himself with in the Quran, so kind of you can flip that game back.
See, with the love which we can
even like we know that when we use that, we should know when we use that pronoun, we don't literally mean Allah's a man. Even in the English language, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I refer to a car or a boat, and I say, Tarif, your car, she's really beautiful, or she rides really well. Anybody who thinks that I'm literally saying your car is about to give birth needs to get their head checked. So, and even when in English, when we say this person, he's doing this, it's already a given. But there's no gender attributes. That's just the way that we talk because our language is limited in how we express things. So my point is, please don't be anthropomorphic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I can say a lot more about this in terms of at least my views on it. At least not views, but just kind of reflecting. It's so mysterious that I also would want to limit it to just a symbol. Meaning, like there's a school of thought that says it's just a metaphor. Just a metaphor. Allah, it's definitely a metaphor, but it's so mysterious, we just have to kind of leave it to Allah. So it is true, it's a representation, there's a holy power, that's for sure. But it's only that, Allah knows. But definitely, Allah is not, we cannot visualize it, imagine it to be a human being. Because this has secrets that are beyond us. We have to submit to that. Remember, Allah is infinite. So the meanings are infinite. And sometimes we limit explanations and interpretations to this one thing. And then be like, so radical about it. Look, I say, no. It's that sure, because we'll never comprehend, but it's an ocean behind it. We have to say we trust in Allah. Right?
You know, Imam Malik,
Yeah.
radiallahu anhu, he said it that somebody asked him, how tall is the kursi of Allah? You know, behind the implication, it's a chair, you know, like a literal chair. And Imam Malik said, what did he say? He said, in terms of the kursi, we believe in it. In terms of the arsh, we believe in it. As for how it is and what it is, we're not going to comment on it.
Exactly. No comment. But believing is so mysterious, so infinite, like, wow. You know, like it's an awe, again. And that one day, inshallah, we'll find out, right? Second one.
Before to start my comment, about the kursi, you have to understand, when Allah taught me to the data from, that's the way we can understand His power. He can use a kursi for you, and we know the significance about the chair that is behind that. So I'm going back to my comment. Ayah puts, and this ayah really blows my mind. All the time when I read, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about what day is good night, need 100 years. So I always think about the astronomer people, the people, scientific people who have this very hypothesis about the dunya, how we're gonna end the explosion, about the galaxy here and there. So I was thinking about it. Recently they just discovered 3 more planets. I don't know if you heard about it.
Are you going there?
They discovered subhanAllah. No, it's amazing. Sometimes I'm asking myself, if those people, it's the Allah subhanahu thank God. Giving this knowledge to explain, but sometimes we go too much in our delusional thinking about we put that this day is gonna be this explosion. Nobody have an idea. He even say about the time. I give a big example. Even the people in crazy about black hole. Nobody have an idea. I'm sure there are anyone. I always think about that. We cannot go on that. So, yeah, you say of Allah.
You know, Jazakallah, excellent. This, the point to get to is to be in that state of awe of the mystery. It's like, oh, it's so powerful, so amazing, it's so big, it's so much bigger than me, I've ever understood. And not to use our interpretations and theories as the summit of it all. Like, this is the truth and reality. No, Allah says, we shall show them the signs and the horizons and within themselves until it becomes manifest to them that it's the truth. Meaning, these are just little signs. Black holes and wormholes, like they talk about wormholes. They get from one point in the universe to another in no time. Like they're conduits and channels in the universe that allow you to cross space in almost no time. Like, why is Allah allowing us to understand these things? To give us a glimpse into the mystery of the next world, where you say, how can I go from here to Jerusalem, as the Prophet said in a second? There are channels. Remember the story of Surah An-Naml? Sulaiman says, who can get me the throne of Bilqis? Who is around the jinn? One of them said, before you get up, it'll be there. The other says, who has been given knowledge? He says, done, blink of an eye was there. Blink of an eye. Faster than the guy who said, before you get up. How do they have this? They got access to the channels of the unseen. Similar to a wormhole. That's why I love this concept of wormholes. It's giving us a glimpse into the mystery, the infiniteness of this world of Allah, and that it's not according to our laws and parameters here. We're just constrained by this. So anyway, let's inshallah wrap up. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
the ocean. You can assure that it's black hole in the ocean, but we don't.
Lala, you're saying there's a black hole in the ocean?
No, they sent me that one. You see it?
No, it might be
They
possible.
sent me
I just want to know.
one. But because it's in the space.
I like that. But I like, trust me, I like it. I'm intrigued. Let's have a conversation on the side about black holes in the ocean. So true. What you'll find out. This is true. Well, life, you know what? We're going to be astounded. We're going to be astounded. Let's wrap up, inshallah. Let's go ahead.
So
Let's wrap up with this, inshallah.
one thing with what our sister said is kind of really opened up my eyes, and kind of one of the things I was having problems with before was I was reading one of the hadiths where one of the apostles where he learned that he would be delayed in Jannah for 500 years because of his wealth, and then he came and gave his wealth away. And it really kind of like scared me a little bit. I was like, make sure that I'm doing everything right every day so I'm not delayed. Inshallah, that if I have that opportunity to get in Jannah. And so when you're talking about the concept of time, at 500 years that I read in that hadith, I was like, well, that could be like that. So it was something scary for me, and I was like, oh my God, like it was like, am I doing things right? And so it was a very good time here this morning, very very well spent. So thank you, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair so much. And I want to get back to that beautiful, mashallah, comments and insights. It's just that thing, like, you know, you're realizing that that's part of this message. Is that you get to start seeing that, oh my goodness, it's not me, my limited life, 500 years.
Exactly.
You're now in awe of that mystery. Let me wrap up with this. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam commented on this by saying, on the day of judgment, we're in the same place. There is not this time and space yet. For some people, it'll feel like an eternity. And some people will be feeling like the day of judgment is like 2 quick rakats. Like, what? But I thought we're in the same place. So your even perception of time in that world is different depending on how close you are to Allah. Wow. So it's not like everybody perceives time the same way. It's not really our time, but even the perception of the experience is different there, because some of us say, oh my God, I'm going to be waiting in the day of judgment 50,000 years. We get so silly. Like, you understand, that's not our world. So the Prophet ﷺ gave an example. He said it will be like as short as praying 2 rakats, just to approximate it. The believer will not suffer like that. But for some people will be like, oh my God, long, sweaty time, right? SubhanAllah, mystery. One day, that's why I say even for people that lost, SubhanAllah, you know, anybody that's died, concerned, there's no time for them. Maybe they're meeting with you, they see that it's in a second. See my point? They're like, oh, don't worry, it's in a second. You just think it's a long time. But in a second, they're already there. They're very happy. Very happy, inshallah. And it's us here who will one day emerge out of this dream and realize it was so short. Allah said it in the Quran, it'll feel like part of a day. That's it. So imagine your death waiting for you, waiting for me. When you get to it, you're going to feel it. Inshallah. That's what Allah says. Allah Azza wa Jalla. Okay. Can you be quick? Yeah, very quick.
Just
Quicker than speed of light.
6 days. Allah created the saying that He created the earth in 6 days.
Yes.
The reason behind this is that Allah wants to teach us the process. And the best example for this process is the Salah. The Salah has several different processes.
It's true.
It is.
Jazakallah khair. Excellent. One of the wisdoms that we attained, it's not the only thing. Why did Allah say 6 days then about this creation? It's just, the commentator said, well, He's teaching us that there's a process to things, although it's not our time. It's not like He's bound by time. He wants to tell us there is a process to getting outcomes. He initiated, He could have just said be and it is. But He said there is a process. And He described the stages, and similarly, as you said, even Salah itself undergoes a process. Everything is a process and procedure. You have to be patient to see outcomes. Let's wrap up with this.
The time difference that we feel between the day after between the person who's a good person and feels the time goes so fast and I don't think it's so long. We even feel it right now in our own life. In a way, it's a good time. We feel it goes so quickly, and bad time, it's eternity, and it's the same time. But
Amazing.
we feel it
Absolutely amazing. Additional experiences, as you heard, that even when we experience suffering, difficulty, it feels long, yet quick, happy times very fast. People say in this day and age, it's not like 50 years ago. They're telling there's no barakah. It's like we're moving so fast, yet what happened? What's different? Perception. Perception. The day 50 years ago felt really long. Now, wow, a week is feeling like a day. We're already feeling all these things, and we shall see more. Wallahi, give us another 10, 20 years. The sun will grow more and more and more to the point where like, oh my God, how can I not believe in God, right? But yet there will be people who will reject. Alhamdulillah, barakallah fikum, may Allah Azza wa Jalla accept from all of us. And guide our hearts and make us among those who prostrate. And make us among the grateful. And grant us wisdom from the Quran. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla that He sends His peace and praise upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina wa Habibina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خير إن شاء الله. Don't forget the food festival next Saturday, inshallah. Isn't it? Right. And next surah will be Surah Al-Ahzab. Very, again, dense, rich surah. Don't miss it, inshallah. And inshallah, we'll see you later. Keep us in your thoughts. Assalamu alaikum.